Hey guys, I'm Vishnu. I'm the host of this podcast. We have John with us here. He is the creative director, creative producer, and operating leader. He's a founder of his own company, the Priority Project, and I'm glad to have you on, man. Thanks for hopping on.
Man, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, Vishnu. Thanks for having me, bro.
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell me a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, man. So as you said, creator of the Priority Project. Also, I work with Sweet Creatives as a creative operator consultant. I've been in the creative industry quite a long time. Coming up, approaching about 16 years. Spent a lot of time in advertising and marketing,
Hmm.
and that's where I kind of discovered my niche, of what I'm good at.
Hmm.
And that's why we're landing here with you today, and discovering your podcast and some of the things that you're doing yourself. And yeah, man, I'm just here as a vessel for the creative people, for founders, and help them with the outlets that they need to live a whole successful life. And that's kind of where my journey has landed me.
Awesome, awesome. What kind of people do you work with? You mentioned founders, you mentioned creatives. Tell me a little bit
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, sure. So we've this is a great time to be alive.
It
You
is.
know, and we've been we've had the privilege of seeing so many people find companies. We've seen technology evolve. We have seen AI kind of bump us up in our productivity and some
Hmm.
of the things that creating quicker. And in that creativity, we've discovered the gap that has kind of led us into overworking,
Hmm.
burnout,
Hmm.
and stifled creativity. And with that gap, I discovered that a lot of people weren't taking care of themselves mentally to really give themselves the opportunity to grow companies and still feel like themselves as the companies grew. At that point, I created something called Whole Success. You can read it on my Substack. And basically, the concept here is that while you're growing, if you founded a company, or if you're a creator and you're in the middle of your projects, while you're growing and doing those projects, you want to feel whole. You don't want to lose yourself in those projects and kind of, in the growth that you're having. Right. And so we've created programming to kind of help people feel whole again and find their original selves. Me myself, I have a very deep, empathetic story about me and chasing millions of dollars and trying to discover, success and what it feels like. And through that journey, I finally realized that it's a very subjective,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
situation. And so, me learning about that and knowing, like, it's self-definitive. And what does it mean to you? And so I found mine and what it meant to me, and it brought me back to my whole success.
Hmm.
And so, the conclusion there is that I look to help founders and creators kind of reprioritize their life. Right, a lot of them have not prioritized correctly, right? And normally you'll find out that they put money at the top of that list, right? Pursuit of it. And they kind of lose their way a little bit and trying to understand who they are, and why they started the journey that they're currently on.
Hmm.
And so that's where I come in, as a personal coach, and somebody that can kind of lean in a little bit with them and kind of help them rediscover who they are, as a whole person.
Right.
And we also lean in understanding that there's a technical side to that, right? It's not just holistic healing or helping you discover who you are, but it's also giving you the right tools to help you do less more often, but get more done. And so
Hmm.
we lean into lots of AI as well and technology. One particular product is called the Creative Suite OS, which is
Hmm.
a dashboard built for creators that actually allows them to learn how to count better when scaling, right? And so our discovery there was just We've worked with so many creators and realized the number one issue that they have is, they understand revenue, but they just don't understand where the money is going and where it's
Hmm.
flowing. And so we also help them do that because we know that that's a big stress point and a big
Hmm.
pain point, and we're trying to
Hmm.
help them relieve those stresses as well.
Awesome, awesome. There's
Yeah.
so many threads I can pull. One I'm
Mhm.
thinking about is talking about the product, and also I'm thinking about, why don't we talk a little bit more about your journey? You mentioned you've been through that, chasing
Mhm.
the $1 million, multi-million dollar, goal, but then
Yeah.
you figured out that that may not be the goal. Tell me,
Mhm.
walk me through that, and then we'll probably, talk about the product itself.
Yeah, man. So I think, around around the early 30s, I think this is where a lot of pressure start to approach those of us who have been in a corporate lifestyle or entrepreneuring or just trying to figure out, how do we define our own success, right? We're starting to really hone in on our friendship groups and things of that nature. And so around about that age for myself, I realized that I had a bunch of ideas. I was very successful, working corporate lifestyle. And there were things that I was really great at. But I
Hmm.
had these ideas I wanted for self, and I couldn't figure out how to do them. And the resources and the tools, I had them all, but it's like a puzzle, right? Big box, got to pull it out on the table, figure out where that goes.
Right.
Well, after I kind of mixed up those puzzle pieces, realized where they go. I was raised learning how to do carpentry, right?
Okay.
I figured out it was the lowest hanging fruit, right? So
It's
I
fun.
went out there. I partnered with a construction firm
Okay.
because I always learned, from business school how to scale, So I partnered with a construction firm. The gentleman, I worked with him for probably about 4 or 5 months as an apprentice, and then he allowed me to take a piece of the business and go off and create my own painting business. So during
Mhm.
COVID, I scaled a painting business up to a $500,000 a year.
Awesome.
Now,
Mhm.
which was great, right? And we're all like, "Oh
On
man,
paper, it's
that's
amazing.
right. On paper, that's great, man. It looks great." But I think where my breakdown came was the amount of hours
Hmm.
in the time that to build that really kind of broke me down a little bit. And I distinctly remember this one situation. So I got up to 8 employees.
Hmm.
I brought a partner on, and I mean, the month before that was my first month that I had crossed the $50,000 barrier, and I was really, really going. I had, reached out to people about property, getting my own garages to paint inside. We had
Hmm.
reached out to technology companies because cabinetry was our specialty,
Hmm.
and we were, reached out about the coolers, the heaters, everything that was going to make that assembly line move, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I remember going, okay, I need a vacation, right?
Yep.
And I was like, because I think I need just to take a break. And I remember being on vacation. I went to Hawaii, and the only thing I could think about
About the business.
was what I wasn't doing while I was on vacation, right? So I really was not on vacation.
Hmm.
And when I came back, it all fell apart, right? My clients called, oh, I didn't get this, and it made it work 10 times worse. And I realized that the business failed if I was not present, right?
Hmm.
If the business failed if I wasn't around. So I said to myself, this is not sustainable. I'm going to burn out, right? It was at that point that I did something that was very hard. I shut the business down and I
Wow.
pivoted, right?
Mm.
So I took my profit. When you're trading, you say take profit. I took my profit and I pivoted into
Hmm.
something that I felt was more of a center of who I was. I realized that even though my father had taught me carpentry and I was good at it, I felt as though it was part of me where that reminded me how to be humble and how to be calm and steadfast in something and be consistent. And after
Hmm.
I got that reminder, I was like, now it's time for me to move on to purpose, right? And so that drove me into what I do today, right? And I'm really an individual who I'm here. I live my life with the desire to have experience. experience, right? I believe in wholeheartedly in the human experience. I think you're here to experience things and the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly. And I think sometimes we forget that that's really our reason for being here, right? And so we take motivation to hedge success so seriously that we forget to be present while things are actually happening, right? Hence why we named it whole success. People tend to get a little bit lost in the pursuit of all of these things that the television, the advertising, the sports, the
Yeah.
money tell us we should have, right? And we really begin to kind of shift our perspective into thinking that we'll love ourselves more if we had all these
Yeah.
things, right? And so I kind of knew that if we could eliminate that, if I could eliminate that for self, then I think discovering those perspectives, helping others
Mhm.
discover those perspectives would really turn them on into a lifestyle that they could really be happy even when things weren't going their way. They could
Mhm.
really have a stillness about themselves because they understood themselves, right? And so my story just, I had that nervous breakdown, but me realizing like, what goes down must come up, right? And so that recovery,
Mhm.
those 3, 4 years of recovery I spent of really getting into purpose and understanding the experience of purpose is really where I've landed today. And so now my life is very whole. It's very journalistic. I'm making sure to be checked in and present with what's actually happening and going on. And I've also kind of refiltered the priorities in my life because it's as you stated before we started our conversation, you were looking at me, you're like, what? You have an adult child, you know, and
You
and
look too
and
young.
right, but the youth comes in how we live,
Mhm.
right? It's really not about um our perceived societal age demographic, right? Because society will tell us, well, by this age you're supposed to have this done, and by this age, right? But it's very obvious to me that one thing, when we discuss life, we have to discuss our morality, right? And discovering that it's like there's an end to this. I don't need to rush to it, right?
Mhm.
And so I want to live through it, and that's kind of where my journey just made me understand like I should probably enjoy as much of this as I can. I want to enjoy at least 80% of my life while it's happening. And I
Mhm.
don't always want to be waiting for this to happen for me to enjoy it. So that's kind of where, geez, Louise, we're just getting phone calls. Now, normally my phone's not this busy. No one bothers me. Um, but this is where I've landed in my life. It's just to be appreciative of all of the things that have taken place and really just love where I am
Yeah.
and be happy with it. And so, yeah, my journey has led me here, man. It's got me really grateful
Mhm.
for all the things that happened. And like I just told you, I just spent 3 years in Puerto Rico, which is I joke with everyone and say I've been on vacation for 3 years,
That's awesome.
and, and I'm
That's so
like,
cool.
it's just a vacation is a vibration, but it reminds me of the Hawaii story,
Mhm.
right? Because it's like
Mhm.
even living in Puerto Rico is where I had my biggest breakthroughs, my most success, because it was like my physical body was limited because I didn't speak the language very well. My wife, and I didn't have to because my wife is from the island,
Mhm.
and so I really had to use my spirit and my brain to really come up with these new ideas for these creators to get them to understand like it's two different worlds. It's the physical world and that spiritual world.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
that physical body has to rest and that mind has to work, it's a totally different aspect of what success is defined as.
Mhm. Mhm. You've hit the problem of all, if not most founders. Same story with me, right? I've been in corporate. I've been I would say quite successful in the corporate, and then I thought, hey, the same skills would translate when you start a business. It does not.
So
It's
you're never really ready,
yeah,
right? You're
exactly,
never really
exactly.
ready. You know,
Yeah,
it's still going to be a journey regardless.
yeah, and it's just like one, it's a series of failures after failures, and you trying to figure it out, and it takes like 20 hours of all of your 24 hours trying to figure that out, and then it just like impacts your mental health, and the successes hit quite quite it quite hard enough that it keeps you going, and then the failures are also, it's just an emotional journey, but
Man.
yeah, you've hit the, I mean, you've been through it, so you know it, and it looks like you've set up a system that helps people who are yet to get into that issue within their
Hmm.
lives, or have already experienced it,
Yeah.
to pivot and position themselves in a better way so that they're successful in a more organized way, I would say. I'm kind of
Yeah, yeah,
capturing
yes,
the
yeah,
essence
sure.
of
Like
essence of your.
it's really just awareness,
Mhm,
right? It's really one thing is a I always tell people, a lot of people I run into who are headed to high level, right? I try to explain to them, hey, I know it's odd for you to hire, or I don't even like to use the word hire. I know it's odd for you to uh, partner with a personal coach, right?
mhm,
But if you were an athlete, you'd have a coach and
mhm,
a trainer and a doctor and all these things so that you could perform well.
mhm,
Well, why are we constantly ignoring your mental performance, right?
mhm,
It is the thing that keeps you in the game of success. Yet you think in your mind that you can figure it out on your own without help, right? And there's no athlete that I've met. My son's a elite baseball player. There's
mhm,
no athlete that I've met that does it without coaching or training,
mhm,
right? So what I do is I go, um, I I can assess, just look at you and say, I can assess and spend a day with you and go, oh, I can tell you right now, these are your top three priorities. And those priorities are how you live,
mhm,
right? But the other side of that is, do you want to be living that, right? Because if your job comes before your family, right, you're going to age faster.
mhm,
If you're okay with aging faster, I don't need to help you, right? If you do it the reverse way and you say, I put my family first, right? But my finances are suffering, I'm going to say, okay, what tools are you using to make sure that the time you have for yourself are helping you build what you want to build?
mhm,
And so the aspect here is you cannot scale your life alone. This is why partnership and um, I also think it's why marriage exists. And people, we have this conversation all the time. I've been married almost 20 years. And I tell people all the time, I think it's why that partnership exists, because you literally could not be on this earth without collaboration,
mhm.
right? You would not be here. So everything that we should be doing should come from a collaborative place.
Right.
If you want to do it alone, you've got to ask yourself some really important questions. First one being why? Why don't I want to do this with someone? Right?
Mhm,
Um, why don't I want to experience this growth with someone?
mhm,
Right? And not why am I not doing it, because your time will come. But if you don't want to, you got to ask yourself, why don't I want to? Right?
mhm,
And I think that there's just so much space for you to be human in this day and age that you don't really have to try to figure out in one fell swoop. Entrepreneurship is the hardest successful track and it's been written, read, repeated over and over and over again. It is like you choosing level 10 in the video game out of 10, right?
Mhm.
And you're going to fail a lot. And my son plays baseball, as I mentioned, and this guy, we always joke. I'll be like, if you hit the ball 3 out of 10 times, you're an all-star. Now, there's no other way, no other space where that accumulates to you being a winner
Mhm.
except baseball, right? So that's how I look at entrepreneurship. If you hit the ball 3 out of 10 times, you're an all-star, right? You just got to figure out where those spots are. And you also have to have a toolbox that you can, when money's short over here, you've got a toolbox,
Mhm.
right? Oh, no worries. I'll grab a tool. I'll grab this tool and do this work. I'll grab this tool and do that work. And that's what makes you really great at being an entrepreneur. It literally means being able to adjust
Mhm.
and understand that you may not be great at it all, but you understand it all enough where you're good enough where you can be successful at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Is
for
is
sure.
there is there a specific process? Let's say you're onboarding a new client. What
Yeah.
is there a specific process you go through to assess their current situation? And how do you discover their goals? How do you move them from where they are to, I mean, it might be custom, obviously it is custom based on
Yeah.
who your clients are, but the general trajectory with which you approach or general understand how do you go about helping them out?
Yeah, it's a feeling. It's a feeling. It's discovering what the problem is, right? It's saying, it's first of all seeing it if we're fit. And it's just sitting and discovering, um, you know, what your lifestyle is, what you're prioritizing, listing out, the books you read, the books you would like to read. What does your day look like? We try to separate and understand those percentages of how you spend your day and spend your week and spend your month. What are your goals? Do you have a 5-year plan? And just really trying to understand who you are as a human being. I know that all of us humans like to put guardrails on everything that we do, but we can't put guardrails on your humanity. And that's what it means to really be universally connected to everything that makes sense. I've had conversations with some great people. I'm no therapist. I've had conversations with very highly educated therapists. But I also realized that there is a medical way to approach your healing, but there's also a very humanitarian way to approach your healing too, right? And I consider myself to be that humanitarian that can get you to see different perspectives of how to approach that, right? It's all about the information that we're taking in, right? And how we're multiplying, what we see on a day-to-day basis, and kind of focusing on the things that make us feel good. As humans, we're really good at focusing on the things that make us feel really bad, and trying to be like, I got to solve why I feel bad. But at what points do you just enjoy feeling well and feeling good,
Mhm.
right? And
Interesting.
so I think step two to that is, after we discover who you are and some of the things you really really want, it really becomes self-explanatory, right? I become your reminder, right?
Mhm.
How to stay steadfast when those things come up that don't, as you said, don't necessarily agree with what you think success should be for yourself,
Mhm.
right? And so we just keep prioritizing and shuffling those priorities until they feel like you have the right alignment. I just reshuffled mine, right?
Mhm.
And priorities are supposed to be reshuffled based on what stage you are in your life, right?
Mhm.
It's all a project, priority project, right? Every quarter, just like you reshuffle the finances at your job or the corporate, or you rerun the P&L, you've got to reshuffle priorities in your life too, based on the season,
Yep.
right? And
Mhm.
so I am there to remind you, like, new season, it's a new 4 months, new 3 months, it's time to
Mhm.
reshuffle those priorities, right? Mine for this season are, health is number one, top of my list, right?
Mhm.
And I've broken it down. Well, if I'm not healthy, I can't be happy, right? And if
Mhm.
I'm not happy, my family, I'm useless, right? And if I'm useless to them, I'm not purpose driven.
Mhm.
So if I look at all of those lists, I'm going health, family, right? Then finances,
Mhm.
right? And people will be like, well, how are you going to take care of them? I'm taking care of them with my health.
Mhm.
I've got to be here to make a living,
Right.
right? And so you're saying, well, finances, yeah, but you can go after that all day. But if you're not here, the money doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
the mental condition of human beings is just, sometimes people are like, whoa, I thought that I was supposed to be making as much money as I could and everyone would be happy. But they're really not because you're never present,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? You're just supplying something in your absence when really they want you to be present in the moment with them.
Mhm.
And you're not really there. Even when you're there, you're not really there, right? And so a lot of high influential individuals and people, CEOs, CFOs, creators of music, artistry, they have this problem because they're so busy chasing that you're
Mhm.
not really enjoying the process of chasing,
Yeah.
right? The thrill of the chase is the thrill that you're going after. It should be the process that you're actually in, right? Not the
Right.
result. The result's going to come as long as you're embedded in the process. And
Right.
so I think the last step of that is just really concluding with yourself and understanding the comfort factor that you can supply yourself.
Mhm.
If
Mhm.
you can really just come to a calm perspective with self and understand that you're always evolving, always changing, um, then we do 12 steps with you, right? And we really, I don't know if you're familiar with a book called The Artist Way,
Not really.
but yeah, check it out. Very great book. But that book made me realize, like, yeah, there's certain behaviors and habits that create who you are,
Mhm.
right? And so that's what's going to make you get out of your own way to really get to that point of self growth that you're
Mhm.
looking for, and it's a difficult journey. It really is hard, but I would say those three areas initially, discovering who you are, creating that new list of priorities, and then finding content with understanding your rhythm of growth and
Mhm.
how just it's your rhythm. It cannot be compared to anybody else. It's your vibration, your cadence. Then you'll find out that it's a lot more comfortable to be yourself rather than having to wear the mask every day.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
I like it's basically having that partner who's been through a specific the journey that they want to go through and having a non-biased perspective which is outside of yourself and
hmm,
just directing them towards the right way that they want to go towards basically.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And people
pretty
and
cool.
people and that's what leads to out of Priority Project came Whole Success,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
It came into understanding so many people I've met who have been super successful but are unhappy. And
Hmm.
it'll shock you. I mean, the scariest thing for a lot of people that I've sat down with is their net worth, right? And them being worth a lot, right? On paper, like you say, right?
Hmm.
And you asking really interesting questions because you're like, wow, well, tell me about it. And like, and it's just like, I don't want to talk. I don't even talk
Hmm.
about it. I'm over
Hmm.
it. You're like, what?
Yeah. You're not
It's like,
excited
it's
about
just,
it. Yeah.
yeah,
About your own success.
they're
Uh-huh.
not, right? And there's a lack of excitement. And you're like,
Hmm.
wait a minute now. You just told me you did 3 million last year. That's
Exactly.
not,
Yeah. It's not a
yeah,
small feat. Yeah.
right. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
and you sit with that when you leave those conversations, you sit with that because you go, while you were building that, pieces of you were giving up little pieces of you at a time.
Hmm.
There were pieces of the real you that you were sacrificing. And then you got here and you realized you had given up way more of who you really want to be. because it felt like getting here first would get you there quicker. When
Hmm.
really you still got to start this whole thing at day one. There's no amount of money that's going to give you the self-discovery that you're looking for. And there's no amount of content. Now they say, you know, um, money can't make you happy. It does ease. It does ease the physical part of life. I don't
Hmm.
have to worry about that. But you still have to journey to your spiritual understanding of self. You could still be an infant there and be a multi-millionaire.
Yep. Hmm.
And people say, well, aren't they connected? Yeah, sure. But somebody could be better at the physical world than they are at understanding self,
Hmm.
right? They could be a champion of corporate life and building businesses that scale up to millions of dollars. But if there's an emptiness of self-worth, those two aren't synonymous with each other. Happiness doesn't automatically bring wealth. I've
Hmm.
seen it with my own eyes, and I used to think so much that well, if you're happy, you'll be wealthy. That's the truth. That's the truth.
Hmm.
But just because you're paper wealth doesn't mean that you're happy. Those same problems are magnified because you have access to a larger world,
Hmm.
right? A little boy told me, he said, yeah, he said that ant right there only knows these blades of grass and this brick. Anything being, if you pick up that ant and move them anywhere, it's foreign land,
Hmm.
right? And you just think about that and you're like, oh my gosh, the size of that thought, the size of this ant and the size of the world is us in a smaller space. And there's still your whole self is a large space. You have to spend your whole life getting to know yourself. And I think sometimes people stop,
Happier you are, yeah, the happier you are, the larger you are, and you're more
right?
accepting to things, and then you get more opportunities, which leads to better success.
Expansion, right? Just
Yeah.
the expansion. And I think that's what everyone desires is we're all seeking expansion, but
Hmm.
but expansion starts from within. Growth is starts small and grows out. And
Hmm.
sometimes, and for some wild reason, human beings think growth starts out and goes in.
Hmm.
And they don't, they're like, oh well, we're all like, well, yeah, I gotta get this first, and then I can do my passion. Nah, no, no, no. It's not how it works. It doesn't matter if you get that first. You're still going to have to start from where I started from. You're still going to have to start the same way you started this company from one. You're going to have to start this journey from one. There's
Hmm.
no shortcuts here. And even so, in business, there's a few shortcuts you might be able to take. But in this reality of growing self, only the path that's for you is drawn out for you. And so I started Whole Success on Substack. It tells you my whole story. I've discussed it briefly here,
Hmm.
but Whole Success tells you my whole story, and then we shift the pendulum with creator field notes, right? And then the ebook will be done here, maybe in about a month or so,
Okay.
and then 2027 we'll release the full book, Whole Success, right?
Okay.
And that's what I even that journey in itself was like, I want to write a book. I love this Whole Success, right? And I said to myself, wait a minute, before you go giving the book, trying to rush. Why would you write the book and
Hmm.
rush to that,
Hmm.
right? Why? Because you would just be chasing selling books, right?
Yeah.
No, you got to really get the story out and discover why would I write the book? Because at the end of telling this story through journaling and through a newsletter and through an ebook, you might be like, we don't even need the book,
Right. Yeah.
right? And so I've learned that the whole thing is to enjoy it all in the
Hmm.
process. All I think sometimes we just rush from start to finish so fast and so quickly, um, that we kind of just like It's like,
Bingo.
yeah, man, we don't really love it or enjoy who we are or what we're becoming while it's happening,
Hmm.
right? And so, yeah, we miss out on so much, and there's so much. All of us are so great, and we
Hmm.
can discover and be so great. And so that's why I've built all the things that I've built, and it took me a while to get here. And I always say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And the universe is a great teacher, right? Believe it or not, this is you and I are is my first time where someone reached out without me reaching out first asking, and someone reached out and said, "Man, can I interview you?" And I go, those are points at life where I go, okay, so we've done what we were supposed to do at
Hmm.
these steps and stages. Now people are the universe is responding to you following instructions about what it's asked you to do. It's going to show up for you. Right
Hmm.
now, the same notion of you calling me and saying, emailing me and saying, "Hey, will you do this interview?" I'm like, "Of course, absolutely." Another young lady reaches out, "Hey, will you do this interview?" Of course,
Hmm.
no problem. Now these are out of the blue. We call it out of the blue because we say out of the sky it just came, right? And then another young lady reached out and said, "Hey, would you be willing to discuss some concepts for shows about priority?"
Hmm.
Right? And so I just say that to people to say that if you really trust what you're doing, you know, you don't have to try to oversell it. I sat down with a guy and no. I was watching a podcast and the guy goes, "If you have to sell too much, that means you didn't take your time on marketing,
Hmm.
right? And if you have to market too much, that means that you didn't take your time on developing your product." And so you go, well, if I'm the brand, if I have to market and tell you, like, interview me, da-da-da, I haven't worked on the product. As a human, you are the product. So if you have to keep going, interview me, buy my book, please give me, we haven't worked on the product.
Yeah.
Because if the product is great, you don't have to ask anybody to
Hmm.
interview you, buy the product, do anything. We can just enjoy this. I'm naturally enjoying this conversation. This is what I talk about every
Hmm.
day. This
Hmm.
is no mask here. I do this with people I love, I've just met. I was in the locker room the other day, um, coming out of the locker room, and here sits a man who's blind. This is a true story. It just happened yesterday. This man is blind, right? And he's playing with his phone in we're in the family locker room and he's playing with his phone. His phone is loud, but in hindsight, I didn't know why he had the speaking version on his phone.
Hmm.
And it's talking
Hmm.
to him about, and it's reading through stuff and he's listening attentively. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not thinking he's blind. He gets up and he picks up his walking stick. Now he walks past me the first time and took the original path that I could tell he took before to get his daughter. On his way back, he turned where I was trying to be out of the way and
Hmm.
bumped me. So when he bumped me, I politely touched his elbow, grabbed his hand, and I said, "I got you, brother." He said, "Oh my God." He said, "Oh man." I said, "No worries." He said, "Thanks, I appreciate you." And he crossed over to me and he sat down. And I looked at him and I was just questioning, was like, "How you doing?" We just started chatting. And he said, "Yeah." And somehow we got to the conversation. I said, "Oh, so what do you do?" He's like, "Oh, I own vending machines." And I said, "Well, how many?" He said, 150.
Wow.
So in my
Wow.
mind, I'm going, my first thought was, hey, I had been talking to my son about starting him a business, and the first business we thought of was vending machines.
Hmm.
So I go, if you put something in the universe, it will respond,
Hmm.
right? And I always tell people, I'm like, you know, when I'm very inspired with people that have any type of ailment or disability because most of the time that just makes them that much. They go for it even harder than we do, because it's like, I've already had this thing that I can't use, so
Hmm.
I'm just
Let's
gonna
use
go.
everything
There's no
else that we
fear.
have.
This is
Yeah.
already right. I'm
Yeah.
already in the dark. What, there's nothing else to this but that.
Hmm.
And he starts talking to me. I'm like, man, your favorite? Wow. It's like, yeah, man. And he's just talking to me. And he's like, yeah, take down my number, man. I'll talk to you sometime about how to, if you really want to do this, how to do it. And oh man, my whole mind was blown, because I'm just like, who
We were just
knew,
talking about it. Yeah.
right? Who knew? But on top of that, just his spirit and being so lighthearted, right? And so willing. He can't see me.
Hmm.
He can't see. All he can do is hear me. So my energy is really all he has to go off of, right? And the whole time we're talking, he's reading me.
Hmm. Of
He's
course. Yeah.
reading. He's doing a better job than most humans who look at one another.
Hmm.
He's like, and at the end, and I was polite, because I recognized, like, this is not a situation where you jump the gun and say, well, can I get your contact info? Right? He's got to ask me. This is, sometimes humans, we just are so impatient with the way the world works. And I just said, just talk to him like, man, I appreciate. He's like, well, you can have my number if you want to talk further. And I'm thinking in my mind going, and that the patience returns to you. You know, the joy is in the processes that you've gone through to become great at what you are. I don't want to know how to buy the vending machines. I want to hear your story,
Yeah. There you go.
right? Because the
That's what
story
I'm
is
doing this.
right. Because the motivation is therapeutic
Hmm.
from the story. I'm discovering myself through your story, right? It's really not about show me how to make money, but he's already giving me tips and telling me what I should and shouldn't do, and this is what, and I'm going, and these are all mistakes I would have made.
Right.
I would have rushed into that, and these are all things that I would have made mistakes on, right? And it just became a great 5 minute conversation. He walked out the locker room. I walked out. His daughter walked out with him, and we just great conversation, But that's kind of really like how life is. If you just spend a little more time, if we just spend a little more time being patient, if we
Yeah.
just spend time being calm with one another and just waiting our turn, because the wait is what makes it fun. I realized, like, you have a lot more fun waiting in line for the roller coaster than you do actually on the ride. And I've been to tons of amusement parks. I always joke with my dad, because he used to take us to all of them. And I used to be like, do you know we have more fun in the line?
Yeah.
He would be
Watching
like,
the other people, yeah, scream.
right. And he would be like, oh, the first time I told him that, I think I was about 35, and he was like, oh, now you're understanding what life has to offer, because that perspective is you don't have, a lot of people don't have that perspective. They want to rush through the line.
Mhm.
Really, there's more things that happen in that 40 minutes than in that 40 seconds, right?
Right.
You're going to be successful, and you're going to get that big deal. You're going to close that big contract. You're going to take that big trip, and then it's going to be over. And then you're going to say, this is that mountaintop. I've got to climb another mountain. And then you're going to realize, like, but it was the climb that I was really enjoying. The people I met,
Mhm.
what I was doing, all of these things are really what I had a great time doing. It wasn't me
Mhm.
getting there. It was the process of me getting there.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you can, that's what my goal, that's what my job is prioritizing the process of you getting there with a whole success of self. And then we give you a few tools if you need them to help you understand how to alleviate the pressures
Mhm.
that you're thinking and finances and building credit and all that things, that kind of help you maintain your calmness in your meditation state,
Mhm.
to lessen your worry and help you organize yourself. And that's our toolbox at Priority Project. is community. We are more harped on community, and you having an understanding of simplicity. We're not trying to make it difficult. I'm not trying to make it difficult. I'm
Mhm.
really not trying to sell you anything, right? Um, I'm just trying to get you to honor yourself, who you are, what you're capable of, get some deep insight into your own empathy for self, and get you to slow down a little bit and realize like you age yourself. You really do. I can look at you if you look older and you're younger, I can be like, you're trying to run. You're trying
Mhm.
to run. Just walk.
Yeah.
I know you want to get there quick, but you don't it doesn't you don't so many years. I gotta figure it out. I gotta figure out what. Go for a swim. Go for relax. Because really that's all you have control over right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's if you feel out of control, what can I control? That's what I should be looking for, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah, man. So
Awesome.
that's kind of yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
You have a
For
very
sure.
interesting life, man. Very
Yeah.
interesting perspective, and I love your energy, man. It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, appreciate
It's
you.
great. It's great.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah, so if you everybody you can find me on social media, John Ashers. That'll lead you pretty much everywhere you need to be.
Mhm.
If it's the first time we're meeting, find me on Instagram first, then kind of make your way down the rest of the funnel and pipeline.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, connect with me on those platforms. Please DM me. I'm down to have a conversation. And yeah, just if you're on the journey of self discovery, finding yourself, if you're a high value creative, or you're creative just getting started, if you're founder just getting started, let me know, man. And I'm I'm
Hmm.
I'm here to help.
Awesome. Awesome, John. Yep, great person to talk to, and please connect with him.
Yeah.
It was amazing talking to you, John, and I think we will end it right here. Uh, it was amazing talking to you.